Hey everybody, Mr. Moonlight here, and this is Alien Autopsy, or I should say Alien 3 Autopsy. Today we're going to be talking about the autopsy of Newt, hashtag Newt lives. So if you're unfamiliar with this video series, I am brutally honest about films, not just the Aliens franchise, but I've been doing a series of Alien 3 videos, which started with one called Why I Think We Need to Stop Pretending That Alien 3 is Good, but it's still okay to like it. And that is to say that, I think Alien 3 fails as a movie. I don't think it's a good movie, and I think it fails as a sequel particularly. But also there's a lot to like about it in terms of the effects, the cinematography, the acting. There is some stuff to enjoy about it. But I think overall, as a sequel to the franchise, Aliens, and Alien 3 just fails. So, again, I'm going to talk a bit about the autopsy of Newt today. And this particular issue is it's a sore subject. And I hate to sound like a fanboy here. People always want to go like, well, they're just movies and, your fanboy feelings are hurt. I don't think that's very fair. I don't generally consider myself over-the-top fanboy in any sense of the word. I like good storytelling, and if you bring me into a story and you make me feel invested, then I'm going to care about that story. And I think that's perfectly reasonable for any audience member to feel that way. So the Alien and Aliens were, for me, very important movies. I enjoyed them very much. I thought they were excellent storytelling. They had the right mix of mystery. They had fantastic acting. They had near perfect special effects. No movie is perfect. You can pick apart any movie, but the story arc of going from the story of the crew of the Nostromo to the story of Ripley, the survivor of the Nostromo, who has come back to Earth to find that her child has grown old and died, and she is alone, and she is a survivor of something that no one else around her can relate to, so she feels very alone. And then she's called back to the planet where the alien came from and finds Newt, who is another survivor, and so they are able to relate to each other on a level of surviving something that no one else can relate to. So they instantly bond. They maybe have a chance at not feeling quite so alone. And Ripley has a chance to redeem herself as a mother figure. These two have been through a lot. They've been through hell, and they continue to go through hell together in Aliens. And then Alien 3 comes along and essentially kills that story arc, just chops it off at the head as it's moving along and says, I know you were enjoying that story, but we don't think it's a very good story. We don't like that kind of story. I know you keep showing up because you like this kind of story and this is the story you were promised, but we think we've got a better story. It's a story of nihilism and how we hate humanity and how we think everyone's a pervert. And, that's a better story. That's a more real story. And if you don't like it, too bad, because we know better than you. This is the kind of story you need. You need to hear this. You need to hear that life is terrible. And, first, people can argue back and forth about whether life is good or life is terrible. I happen to think it's pretty good. We're lucky to live in the time we do. So to have people go like, well, everybody dies, so, everything's miserable. I don't need that. I'm not showing up for that. And I think it's very rude to think that your way of thinking needs to butt in on what I'm doing or what I want for myself. So when I show up to an Alien movie wanting the continuation of the saga of Newt and Ripley and possibly Hicks, and see how that universe expands and that story progresses even more. You know, and to have somebody hijack that so they can, you know, just kind of like push their own worldview down my throat. Yeah, you know, as somebody who's invested in that story, I'm going to resent it. And I think a lot of fans do, but they keep getting told that Alien 3 is a great movie. So I'm going to back up a little bit because, I want to talk about Newt's Autopsy and how this is kind of like the ultimate rubbing in the face of what I'm talking about. And I realize maybe that wasn't everyone's intention. But here's the story. When I was a teenager, I worked at a comic book store. And a particular gentleman I worked with told me the story of how he was at Toys R Us to pick, I forget what toy it was, but his, he wasn't there to get something. I can forget why he was at Toys R Us. I think he was walking around with his girlfriend or something like that, maybe shopping for a birthday present for a nephew or something. But he said he saw someone from another comic book store there that was buying up all of these particular kind of toy that was hot at the time, and forgive me, I can't remember what it is, but he like just put there was like 5 or 6 of them, the same toy, and he just put them all in the cart. And he said he was having a conversation with this woman who had a kid with her, and she was asking him, like, can't my kid just have one of those? You've got like 6 of them. And they were arguing about, you know, the guy was saying like, well, I have a store and I have clients that want these, so you can come to my store. And, you know, and he's like, I just hate that. Like, these collectors are you know, getting in and just like they're buying everything up and they're marking it up. And that's not the point of the story, though. He said at that moment he fantasized of just ripping one of them out of the cart and buying it, and then like destroying that toy in front of the guy just to make him mad. And in my mind, I said, well, I'd rip the thing out of the cart and buy it and give it to the kid. But, you know, he kind of talked about it in a way like he would take a lot of pleasure in kind of irritating this person who wanted to mark these toys up for his own comic book store. And that's kind of what I think that the Newt Autopsy is, because, you know, Newt, she could have had a future in the franchise, or maybe not. You know, maybe she just, you know, wants to be a weather girl or something. You know, you could imagine it. Come on, we all see the joke coming. Tomorrow's going to be mostly sunny and dry. Mostly. Thank you very much. Anyway. The Newt Autopsy really felt like that. The Newt Autopsy wasn't just the displaying of Newt's dead body to reassure the audience, yes, we really killed her, there's no mistake about it. But if we can just talk for a moment about how Newt at that time represented the franchise, the films that came before, or the Aliens, to be more specific, because, you know, everyone talks about how Alien 3 was going back to the original Alien, the dark mood and the single creature. And, you know, that might have been fine if the story had been better, or if the movie had been scary or interesting or entertaining, or there had been any characters. And I talk about all this stuff in my other videos. I don't think that the characters were that good, and I explain why in other videos. And by the way, again, if you like these movies, I'm sure I'm making you really mad at the moment, and I'm sorry. I'm not trying to bash you. If you like these movies, it's fine. You know, everybody has different tastes, but I really feel like these days, if you have a movie arc going, you have to service that arc, because that's why people keep showing up. If you feel like the movie's themes and values and arc should change, then you are doing that at the expense of the people who are already invested. And that's not fair to them. If you want to have these themes in another movie, like, go support another movie. Or if you're a filmmaker, go make the movie that has those themes. But don't hijack something that's already successful and replace it with something that you think it should be because you think it's better, and then tell everybody else it's better and that they're wrong when they're upset about it being hijacked. I'm looking at you, Star Wars, Disney Star Wars. Anyway, so when we see them kind of lay out Newt's cold dead body and open it up graphically and start removing organs and seeing the dead blood flow out of it and making crunching sounds and stuff, you present it in a way where Ripley's supposed to be really upset and distraught about it, but really the way you're doing it tells us you're taking some pleasure in this. You're taking pleasure in kind of destroying and putting on display Newt's dead body, and you're taking pleasure in telling us, yeah, we destroyed what James Cameron built, and kind of having a little smirk about it. And if it had anything to do with the actual story, then we would have had it presented to us in a different way. And also we would have seen Ripley actually act like she cared about Newt after the fact. She just was like, well, okay, like we need to cremate the bodies, and then we have the funeral, and then that's it. It's never mentioned again. Ripley's sacrifice at the end, she doesn't mention Newt. She doesn't express any anger towards the alien for what happened to Newt. It's all about her, essentially treating the alien like a white whale for some reason. It just really no good. Anyway, I would say more about it, but that's pretty much it. When they're opening up Newt and putting her death on display, they're kind of telling the audience, like, yeah, look at this. You like Newt? Here's her dead body. How do you like that? I think the Autopsy of Newt essentially is a presentation of the filmmaker's attitude towards us, the audience, of how they felt about Newt in the other movie. And to do that says that, they don't respect the audience, they don't expect respect the story, but they still expect us to respect the story. Now, I'm not saying that Newt should have grown up and become the the predator killer or something like that. But, I would have presented Alien 3 in a way that would have been a family story. Maybe Newt and Hicks and Ripley may not be an actual family unit, but they have that for survivors bond relationship that carries on. Maybe they live on Earth now. Maybe Newt or Hicks is still part of the military. Maybe he's not. But at some point they get called upon again because the alien threat has resurfaced, and maybe in a new way, maybe something to do with the derelict or finding the alien's home planet or a threat to Earth. That would have been the story that I wanted to see. I actually think the Dark Horse comics, which I didn't prepare any images for, but the Dark Horse comics did kind of a good job with that. They went in the dark, gritty, kind of almost like the alien version of Terminator 2, where Earth had been overrun by the aliens, and people were essentially floating around in space feeling sorry for themselves. But there was still some interesting stuff with the military and trying to kind of take back the universe from the aliens. Something like that would have been interesting. So, but speaking of that, I think I've got one more of these videos in me. And this one was a little rambly. It's actually the second time I recorded it because the first time was really rambly. But this is with Neil Blomkamp, maybe possibly for Disney retconning Alien 3 and doing something else. That might be interesting. I think they might have to de-age Sigourney Weaver a little bit because, she looks great for her age, but still, after a while it gets a bit, you'd have to really jump ahead of time to do something like that. And there's some, I should do a little video about the art for Alien, Blomkamp's Alien series, because there's some things that concern me about that as well. But I think my last video is going to be Alien 3, how I would have fixed it. And this is not just like my own sequel, like how I would have done that, but how I would have taken the sets, the actors, the situation, and maybe there's a way to re-edit it and do some things like deep fake and those voice imitators and that sort of thing. Maybe some fan out there can take this and fix Alien 3, so we have like a alternate version, fan version of the sequel, something like that. I do it myself, but I'm making my own movies, so I don't have time. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and hit the subscribe button, notification bell, like the video, share it with your friends. Please don't falsely flag my videos, because this is just an opinion about a movie. It's not, it's not politics. It's not anything like that. It's just a movie, guys. So thank you very much again, and we will be back for another video soon.